Well, good afternoon, our Viking families, and welcome back to another session of our Mount Pleasant Area Junior Senior High School Return to School Plan informational Viking news that we've done over the last couple of weeks. We're putting this together here Thursday afternoon, get ready for the release of this tomorrow. I'm Dr. Campbell, I'm the junior high principal, and again, you know this guy across the table from me, Mr. Gambita, the high school principal, and we're so thankful that you've come in and joined in again for another session to watch, you know, what's it going to look like when our students return back to school on September 8th. So we have still a lot of things to do, and Mr. Gambita, it's a big week. We from last time that we spoke to her, we made session 3 to now this session 4. There's been a lot of changes here in this week of August 17th here.
Yeah, and each one of those has its own obstacles and barriers that we had to work through. And we've been responsive along the way, but it's been a lot of planning, a lot of work, and that day's coming. The kids are coming, man. Yeah. So we got to be ready to go, and we feel very confident we're ready to manage that.
Right. We had an administrative team meeting even today talking about our teachers are coming back next week, and we have a lot of professional development. We're excited to have our staff back, ironing out a lot of things with the Schoology platforms, the hybrid model, and how do we work online. So there's a lot of planning that's going to start next week. The ball is really going to start rolling once the staff comes in. The maintenance department's done a fantastic job getting this building ready to go with people coming in. I wish I should have taken a picture. There are signs everywhere. It's going to be a radically different building when you come in starting on September 8th here. But in addition to that, we are finalizing some plans here for the start of the year. We have a welcome back letter coming soon. We know that Welcome Back Night will not happen this year in its traditional format because we just can't have, you know, that annual celebration excitement where all the crowds
Which is disappointing because that became a traditional event here at our school annual event.
It always amazed me how people would be lined up at the doors an hour before, even though we would open up just to get ready and see what their schedules look like. But we are going to have some transitional orientation days, particularly for the 7th graders. Right now we have them tentatively scheduled for September 2nd and 3rd, and then in that mailer that's going to come out later on this weekend, you should get it first part of next week, will outline how that orientation is going to look. But even you talked about schedules. You know, in the old days, the traditional format, you always got your schedule on Welcome Back Night, but this year we had to change it up a little bit.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. They won't be receiving students won't be receiving a physical report card, but we're going to make that available well in advance, probably sometime next week. So stay tuned. You'll be able to access both through Schoology
and Home Access Center.
And Home Access Center. So you're going to get your schedule well in advance and be able to lay out your day weeks before you even come in the door.
Yeah, and as I know many of you being Viking fans know that the PIA right now has been back and forth with Pennsylvania Department of Health and Education about fall sports and sports in general, and there's supposed to be some more information from the PIA about what that's going to look like for not just Mount Pleasant, but all our competitors, all of our neighboring school districts, and what we're going to do for the upcoming year sometime Friday, sometime later on today.
Right, just so people are aware, you know, that's the PIAA that's going to be making some decisions. That'll eventually pass back to our local WPIL, and they'll have to listen to the guidance from the PIAA and make their own decisions about what's going on. We're crossing our fingers and hoping that there's going to be athletes on the field, but we'll wait and see, and we're going to do the appropriate thing, what the recommendations call for.
So unfortunately, we like most of this summer, just stay tuned because there's a lot of changes that potentially going to happen even between now and the start of September 8th, particularly with athletics. And as the news changes, we'll get you some more information. And again, Mr. B, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this Viking news session here, so we can get that information out to our parents and have those conversations. And if you have any questions, like we've said in the other sessions, don't hesitate to call the school. You know, our number here at the office is 724-547-4100. You can call extension 1000. That'll take you to the high school office, or extension 1015, which is the junior high office. Or again, I know Mr. Gambita and I answer email regularly each day, and that's rgambita@mpasd.net or jcampbell@mpasd.net. But one of the biggest changes that came across the board this week was masks. So, it's one of those things that we probably have to put our masks on now because we're in this building. So masks are now a mandate based on the changes in the guidance. And if we go back, again, kind of set the table here, we've had a number of different sessions about a return to school plan. And over the course of those last couple of weeks, we looked at things like hygiene and sanitation and what that's going to look like in the classroom. Right. We did a session about social distancing and spacing and how you're going to do that in our building. Last week, we talked about just the roles of visitors coming in, or even with transportation, and how you're going to get on the bus and exit the bus. So if you take a look at our screen, we want to talk about face coverings because that's the big news story this week. And then also take a look at what our bell schedule is going to look like next year at the junior, senior high. So session 4 here, let's talk about face masks, Mr. Gambita, and talk about what happened really on August 17th, because it changed it for us, and not just Mount Pleasant, but all the school districts in the Commonwealth.
Yeah, I mean, we were working all June, July on a mask requirement when you can't socially distance up to that 6 feet. There were going to be times where kids were going to have masks. But we really worked hard in the classroom to get the 6 feet of separation. We took seats out. We took furniture out of rooms. We stored things in different areas. We reorganized the whole cafeteria so there was those opportunities for kids to take off their mask. And then boom, the hammer came down, and this came out last week, that regardless if you're 6 feet apart, you are required from the time you get on the bus to the time you go home to have your mask on, and that's K through 12.
Right.
And that was a real shocker for all of us, and I know people in the community were a little shocked by that out of right field that came to us, and our superintendent even talked about that at a local recent board meeting. But we are required to follow those mandates, and we will. But there is going to be still within there's some room to take some breaks. You might want to talk about that and what that's going to look like.
Right. So again, there was some confusion and shock about the mandated mask requirements and the clarification on that. And if I go to the next slide, the reason being for that change is that PDE and the Pennsylvania Department of Health were using guidelines from the American Academy of Pediatrics, which would recently sent out a new report that's saying face coverings can safely be worn for children age of 2 and up. And that includes almost the vast majority of our students, and even some students with underlying health conditions, which again was reaffirming of what was back on July 1st. But some of those guidelines changed, and when this report was issued out, they clarified what they had back on July 1st. So there's a couple of similarities from July 1st to August 17th that I want to reiterate. You were always allowed to have your mask off when you were having food or drink. Obviously, I can't feed myself with a mask on. That same thing with the restaurants. You can have your mask off when you're in a restaurant to eat and be served there, and that's going to be the same thing in our cafeteria too. So that doesn't change. When it comes to the seating, we will have all the distancing, and you're going to be permitted to not have your mask on when we're eating in the cafeteria. So that was one of the similarities between the mandate that came out back on July 1 and what was announced again or reaffirmed on August the 17th. The other one is just anytime there's a potential of an unsafe condition. Maybe you're in Mr. Smith's woodshop class or Mr. McKeska's technology class, and you're working with gadgets or you're working with machinery or at the VOTEC, and that mask, just like wearing a tie, can create an unsafe condition, and you have to take the mask off for the safety purposes. But the big difference, and Mr. Gambita has already said, was a lot of school districts, including ourselves, had rearranged our classrooms to do the best we can and get 6 feet apart and more in order for students to be able to take that mask off in a classroom setting. But the new guidance, and that was from the report from the Academy of Pediatrics, said regardless of the spacing, you still have to wear a mask all day long. But they did give a caveat of these 10-minute breaks that you can have throughout the course of the day, and administratively we're working on that and working with our teachers about
that's
how we're
going to happen.
do that.
But we got to work out the details of what, where, when, and how that's going to happen, and it will be in place when the kids get here.
Right.
Definitely.
So that's one of the big changes within here. And again, just to reiterate why that changed. And it is a mandate. It's not something that it's strongly encouraged or recommended. It's an order that came down on July 1st. So we have an obligation to follow that mandate.
That's not just students, right, Mr. Campbell? That's teachers, that's custodians, that's
Our
secretaries,
vendors,
our bus drivers,
our vendors, people who are coming in, our visitors that your parents that may need to come pick you up for a doctor's appointment. You know, anybody who comes into our building has to have a mask on at all times. So. One of the other topics we want to talk about, because of all the changes, we had to adjust the bell schedule this year, Mr. Gambita, in order to accommodate a lot of things. And you want to kind of give us a background a little bit of why we had to make those changes.
Well, if you think back to June, Dr. Campbell, this is probably what the audience at home is seeing right now is probably our 6th or 7th version of a bell schedule because of the continuing changes that we were faced. At the end of the day, students, families, staff, everyone has to remember there's a lot more things that we have to take into consideration than just moving from class to class. Now, we have to give appropriate timing for kids to get off the bus and get to where they need to go. We have to have enough time not only to get kids to lunch and feed them, but to clean up after.
Right.
So it's a sanitary situation. At the end of the day, we have to have a strategic approach to getting kids off of this campus. And as a result, we had to shrink some time periods steal some minutes from the class period, steal some time from the lunch periods, to give us the extra time at the beginning, end of the day, and in the middle of the day when the kids are eating lunch. And so kids will see that, you know, it's still a quality amount of time in the classroom, but there's some time built in so that those little things that can be taken care of and managed.
So if you take a look at the screen, the biggest change you're going to find out, guys, is, you know, we have a 9-period bell schedule, but in the last couple of years, you had a full period of lunch, which meant you were allowed to eat for 40 minutes or 42-minute blocks. But because of the need to clean, particularly in between all 3 of our lunches, we had to go back to the 30-minute block of time. So you will still have a 30-minute lunch, but we had to change that in order for us to give our ladies enough time to clean all the surfaces and take care of transitioning students from place to place, from the high school to the junior high and back to the high school for classrooms and things like that. So just to kind of run you through the high school bell schedule, which is what you see right here, student entry starts at 7:15 in the morning. Parent drop-off starts at that point in time. Buses will start dropping off at that time. And we will have a sequential method with our buses where we'll have basically 3 waves. So, and again, in order to try to space and not have conglomerates of groups of people coming in those doors. And we'll have people actually opening the doors too, right, Mr. Gambita, so you don't touch those surfaces. So those are things you're going to see even within the cafeteria. We're talking about some different ways to set our doors. But from 7:15 to 7:30, parents can drop off within that window. And then the buses within waves are going to be every 5 minutes dropping off students, again, to try to do that separation so they're not all, it's a staggered approach for that. And everyone's going to go to first period. So there's no more hanging out in the rotunda like we said before with our spacing session and things like that. And then the expectation with the student drivers is we're hoping that everyone gets here closer to 7:30 and they would arrive and go straight to first period. And one of the things Mr. Gambita, Mr. Belinsky, and I talked about was that, you know, one of the perks of driving was one of being really the last one in and the first one to leave at the end of the day too.
Yeah, that's correct.
Our bell schedule is going to be 40 minutes. Every class is going to be 40 minutes with the transitions. And then, like I said, if you have lunch A, your first lunch, which was lunch period 5, you're going to go to that lunch, and then you'll go off to your 5th or your 6th period class, just like normal. Or if you ate B lunch, which was considered to be period 6 last year, you're going to go to 5th period and then go to lunch and then go to your 7th period class later on. So that's what the schedule, we'll go over that again on the first day of school and everything. But then at the end of the day, we will have a homeroom period. And then from there, we'll be dismissing students from homeroom to their parents that are going to be picking them up, to the student drivers will be the first one to go. And then we will do, again, a a set
About
of waves of buses that will be dismissed on a regular basis till everybody leaves at approximately 2:30 in the afternoon. So one of the changes too is that parent pickup is going to be on the junior high parking lot as well as the student parking lot.
correct.
So you guys will be down there, and then you'll be exiting the campus through the front of the building, and we'll have traffic pattern things
Right.
and all that there for you. But drop off will be in the front, and then pickup's going to be in the junior high side of the building.
We'll have the first day of school for those drivers, student drivers. We'll have someone out there guiding them in because
Absolutely.
that's a major change in itself.
Yep.
But we needed the extra space. I think I referred to that in the last session. But we have much more parking in that side or that parking lot than in the back of the building.
And that'll be reiterated in that welcome back letter that we'll be sending out this weekend
That's
too.
right.
And then on the flip side, the junior high schedule, again, you guys eat the last lunch, which is going to be 7th period. So again, our schedule is just like the high school where parent pickup and buses drop off in waves. And if you are a sibling getting a drive, because I know some of you can't drive in junior high, you're not old enough, but you'll be a passenger and coming in with your older siblings arriving at 7:30. You'll go directly to first period. You'll go through the first 6 periods of the day. You'll have your lunch of a half hour, and then you finish up with period 8 and 9, and then we go back to our homeroom period. And again, we start the whole process of, again, a systematic approach of releasing students, again, so we don't have large groups in the hallway, and we minimize the amount of people all in one spot at one time.
I think I should mention in the morning when kids are getting dropped off, there will still be a breakfast program, and it'll be more of a grab and go type
Yes.
situation, all housed out of the cafeteria. Unfortunately, we can't have our little station that we normally had in the rotunda because it would be stopping the flow of traffic. So there's still opportunity there to grab something to eat before school starts. I didn't want anyone to think that there wasn't an opportunity there.
Right. So that's it for today in our session 4. Again, we appreciate you watching this informative video and session here to talk about face mask and our modified bell schedule. We'll have it. This will come to you Friday at noon, and we'll have hopefully our last session, session 5, before the start of the school year next week to get you geared up and ready to go. We're excited about students coming back.
Man,
again.
I'm excited about teachers coming back starting next Tuesday and getting their in-service training in and taking a look at how we do business and basically showing the place off. Some of the hard work that we did, is very visual and having some people walk around and check out the fruits of our labor, I guess you could say.
This building looks fantastic. You're going to be excited about what this place looks like and all the changes and just how it's just clean, it's ready, it's fresh. It's been exciting to see our staff working on all that. So, and then of course with the masks that we have to wear every day, I'm going to have to find myself some new breath mints, right? So I don't have to smell my lunch all the time. So with that, Mount Pleasant family, it's good seeing you. Thanks for joining us. Again, I'm Dr. Campbell. This is Mr. Gambita. Have a great weekend. Go Vikes.